What's different about entrepreneurship than rap and sports is when you say you're a rapper, someone's like, all right, rap. And then if you suck, everyone's like, oh, you suck, you know. And when you say you're a basketball player, people are like, at the YMCA or going to the league. The one thing I love about entrepreneurship is it's binary. Either you're gonna win or you're gonna lose.
To me, entrepreneurship is about creating change, not just creating companies. And you know, the most effective entrepreneurs who I've met care deeply about some mission and some change that they're trying to create, and often they don't even start because they're trying to create a company, right? And you know, that's how I think about you know, my connection to all of us here is.
Well, I'm a very curious person, and that curiosity really is, I think, at the basis for all the kinds of things that I like to try and experiment with and attempt, and we have a good time doing it. It's not so much being driven as much as being interested in a lot of different things.
The way we do business is changing, and if you don't adapt now, your business might slowly start to whittle away, because it's becoming less about making money and more about sharing your message, following your desire to change the world, to make a difference, to do something more meaningful.
Well, so I was in banking and in consulting, saw a lot of bigger companies, and I thought, you know, I'm not sure I'll be able to work my way up inside a company. I'm not sure I've got that personality, but at the time I thought it will be the most rewarding for me, particularly also as this is 1991, as a female and as a minority female. The best way to not be judged based on who I am, but what I do, is to maybe put a product into the consumer market and see if anyone buys it.
I really encourage them, if they have a great idea, to run with it. Find ways to finance, find ways to build, find ways to market. Every business has, and I don't like to think of things as obstacles all the time. I like to think of them as challenges to be solved and problems to be dealt with.
When I was getting started, I cared deeply about giving everyone a voice and giving people the tools to share everything that they cared about, and bringing a community together. And you know, it started small in one university, and I didn't think it was going to be a company at the time. As a matter of fact, I was pretty convinced that at some point someone would build something like this for the world, but you know, I thought that would be some other company that, you know, already had thousands of engineers and was used to building stuff for hundreds of millions of people around the world. And you know, what ended up happening was you know, that no one built it, right? So we just kind of kept on going, right? I mean, people said it each step along the way. You know, what you're doing, all right, maybe college students like it, but no one else is going to like it. And you know, there's not going to be any money in doing this. So, all right, so you only really do it if you care, right? If you're passionate about doing it. And then it started growing, and people said it would be a fad and it would never be a good business. But you know, you keep going because you care, not because you're trying to create a business.
If they like the product, it'll sell, and I'll be judged on the merits of my my work rather than what I look like. And that is fundamentally why I decided, one of the big reasons I decided to pursue that path.
I think the one thing I love about entrepreneurship is it's binary. Either you're going to win or you're going to lose. And I think that there's a lot of people right now that are not built with dealing with the emotional baggage that comes along with a public loss. And so I spent a lot of time with young entrepreneurs around the mentality of like, when you lose, you know, are you ready to take that ridicule, and what are you going to do? The greatest reason I believe that we're living through such fake entrepreneurship right now is not only is there an enormous amount of capital in play for these 22 to 25-year-olds, but they're the generation, you know, that was parented in a way that tried to eliminate losses from the ecosystem. I mean, this is the generation of 8th place trophies.
Well, I work really hard, and I think that working hard and making money for your hard work, that was another thing that I also discovered as an entrepreneur, that it's all well and good to work really hard, but you must be compensated for your hard work. and not be greedy about it, but be compensated fairly, and that when you look at the end of the month that you actually have some money in the bank that you could invest or reinvest in your business, that you have actually succeeded in being a good business person as well, and you can pay your associates and your colleagues well. You can really actually see that a business is forming, that a business is being created, that you are actually being productive.
One of my favorite parts about my job is strategy, and I think strategy is it's the plan that allows you to define your position in a market. But I think one of the nuances is that some strategy is very long-term and fundamental. You've abstracted enough that it shouldn't be changing all the time. For example, what does my brand stand for? If you've done it right the first time, hopefully you're not changing it every 3 to 6 months.
This change is having an impact on all businesses, because the businesses that stand for something and have a bigger purpose are the businesses that are succeeding because they create community. Why are there millions of hardcore Apple fans? Because Apple has a bigger message: to think different. It brought together the misfits, the rebels and the troublemakers, and it made them feel like they belonged. We have to make our audiences feel like they belong with us in our corner of the world. And when we do that, we can build a business that's not only more successful, but has more impact in the world. Jim Carrey once said, "The effect you have on others is the most valuable currency there is." The businesses that realize this are the ones that are winning. It is not about the money, it's about the effect we have on others.
Then there's the shift to mobile, where people thought that it wouldn't be a sustainable business, and through each of these things, the entrepreneurs who I think build things that last for a long time keep going because they care fundamentally about the change that they're trying to create in the world, and they're not in it just to build a company. And I carry that with me today. Today we have, we live in a world with more than 7 billion people, but more than 4 billion of us are not on the internet. And we talk about having an equal opportunity to be able to create a change in the world, and I think that's a really hard thing to do if you don't have access to some of the basic infrastructure and technical tools that are necessary to build this kind of technical products.
We've demonized to these kids losing. I love losing. Like, micro losing especially, more than macro losing, is incredibly motivating. There's nothing more fun than losing regular season games.
Right.
You learn from them. Come playoffs, you like to build on that. But yeah, I think adversity is the foundation of success. Being born in the Soviet Union, living in a studio apartment with 8 family members when I was a kid, going on 1.5 vacations my entire childhood, my parents buying me nothing because they didn't have the money nor the mindset to do that for me, is fundamentally the reason I'm successful at entrepreneurship. I'm not scared of anything, nor do I care about anybody else's judgment, which allows me to navigate very quickly, and my losses are my losses, right, and my wins are my wins, and they both feel the same.
Whether you're selling a pen or an online course, the people who create a bigger meaning and message around their business are the ones moving forward the fastest. And not only are they the ones moving forward the fastest, they're also the ones making the biggest impact. And if you're anything like me, then making the biggest impact possible is what drives you. It doesn't matter whether you're creating shoes like Tom's, or you're creating cleaning products like The Honest Company, or you're creating an energy drink like Red Bull. If you clearly define what your company stands for, who you want to impact, and how you want to impact them, then you start to create a powerful community of people who will stand by your side as you make a difference in the world. And this is so powerful.
You have to reverse engineer the audience you're trying to reach, and you have to tell them something that brings them value, not you value. Every single person here that is empowered to do so needs to go spend the next 100 days having phone calls, having dinner, having breakfast, having drinks with every one of their customers, and they need to listen to what they care about. And then they need to go back to the pad and cook that meal. That's all I do.
The great artists have been open-minded, even though they may seem like Picasso to be very directed. You can be directed and open-minded at the same time. I think you have to be really intensely serious about your work, but not so serious that you can't see the lateness that may also involve your life. You have to have that lateness too. You have to not be so heavy-handed and so ostentatious. It's very important not to be. I live in the same house I've lived in for 25 years. I haven't gone off and bought mansions, even though my subject is living. Living in a mansion wouldn't do for my readers. I have to keep my credibility alive with my readers. So we were in the same place. I just make that place nicer and nicer. And that's a secret. And people don't know that. People think, oh, she lives in this fabulous place. It's the same old place. It started out like a farm. It got to be a farmette. Then it got to be an estatelet. I built a wall. It helped a lot. But it's the same place, the same grounded nature. And as I evolve, I hope my readers evolve. I hope my viewers evolve. And also, I think it's very important that whatever you're trying to make or sell or teach has to be good. Basically good. A bad product, and you know what? You won't be here in 10 years. You might be rich, you might be famous, but you're not going to be here in 10 years.
Well, with limited runway, meaning cash in the bank, and time, I think of it as cash equals time to experiment. One of the most important things is to fail fast, to learn quickly, experiment quickly, such that you can learn fast enough before your cash runs out. So that's really the critical idea. This idea of I'm going to test something before I build it, see if anybody tries to open the door. If I build a false door and a customer tries to open that door, I can then build behind the door. That's the analogy.
And the stakes are low at that point.
Much lower. That's right. You can decide much more efficiently how to use your scarce capital.
But it's this deep belief that you're trying to make a change, you're trying to connect people in the world, and I really do believe that if you do something good and if you help people out, then eventually some portion of that good will come back to you. And you may not know up front what it's going to be, but that's just been the guiding principle for me in the work that we've done. And I hope that some of the work that we do can play a role in empowering you and so many more entrepreneurs to build the next great company.
If you have a company run by somebody who right now is sitting and saying, well, I'm retiring in 18 months and I don't give a shit about innovation, you're in trouble. Or not talented enough to know how to innovate. Like, you know how many A's, number ones, hire a CMO and say, you figure it out, but they don't even know how to judge it? How are you a CEO in 2019 and don't spend 100 hours to educate yourself on how modern communication works so that you can judge it within your own organization? Gary, I didn't grow up with this stuff. You didn't grow up driving, you figured it out. Like, I know you didn't grow up with it, but it is your job it's required of you to know how to run your business. And to me, how your business markets and communicates is as important as you knowing how to run the finances of your company. It's just that some people don't want to put in the work to get updated on the new platforms and the new world.
So what do you stand for? What does your business stand for? And are you sharing this message with your audience? If you're just in business to sell and make money, it's probably about time to change that and to be in business to serve your community and to make a difference. Otherwise, it's just a matter of time before you're out of business.
If you've got somebody who's driving top-line revenue, or she or he is crushing their numbers, what most companies are doing is they're looking at surface level. They're like, ooh, if we fire Carol, we're going to lose those 3 accounts because she's so wired in there. What they don't realize is the hidden lost revenue that's happening with Carol or Harold destroying the culture and completely messing up the continuity and speed of the macro.